preparing for the night of Qadr. I said that if we're serious about it, we got to be preparing for it from way before, right? If we got a big test, if you got the ACT or the SAT, you're not going to just start studying for it the night of, right? Or, hey, let me go see what's on Instagram and anybody posts what I'm supposed to do. No, we don't do that. Right? We take it seriously. So inshallah, those of you here were amongst those who took advantage of the month of Rajab, advantage of the month of Shaban, advantage of the month of Ramadan until now. So that way, tomorrow night, or during these nights, whenever the night of Qadr is, inshallah, we're those who are fully prepared for it. Now you'll say, okay, well, I didn't come. Okay, that's okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Zumar, verse 53, Ya ibadi alladhina asrafu, قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. He's saying, this is the verse we talked about a few weeks ago when I was here. He's saying, oh, those who have harmed yourselves with your sins, right? Oh, my servants, my beloved servants who have harmed yourselves, I don't ever give up hope. Don't ever lose hope in the rahmah of Allah. So what we have to do, brothers and sisters, is, and he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. He's the forgiving, He's the merciful, okay? So what we have to remember in these nights is that, yes, we've made mistakes. Even maybe in this beautiful, glorious month of Ramadan, we've made mistakes. Okay, but it's never too late. It's never too late for you. It's never too late for me. As long as we have one breath left, as long as we're here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the blessing to be here, to remember Amir al-Mu'mineen, to think about our future, to think about our past. Okay, as long as we got one breath left, it doesn't matter where we are, we can come back to Allah. We can do tawbah. We can return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in these nights, or in this night, tomorrow night especially, our sisters, focus on the quality. Okay? There's a lot of things that you could do, a lot of recommended acts, alhamdulillah. And that's all great. Do what you can. But whatever you're doing, focus on the quality. If you can sit there on the prayer mat, if it takes you 1 hour and one tear comes out of your eye, the size of, they say, even the size of a wing of a fly, that small amount of tear, that's worth the heavens and the earth for you tomorrow night. That's worth more than going through all the things that it tells you on your Instagram posts that you have to do, but not having any change in your heart. Okay? What we're trying to go after is we're trying to change ourselves. We're trying to better ourselves. We're trying to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're ready to take that next step, that we're ready to come back to Him. Okay? So inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq, inshallah, to take full advantage of the night of Qadr. Send me a salawat ala Muhammad. Imam Hadi alayhi salam, our 10th Imam, he once went in the ziyarah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He once went and either made ziyarah physically, or at least he was verbalizing the ziyarah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. One of the things he said there was, he said, أول مظلوم. He said, the first oppressed person. Some have understood this to mean also the most oppressed person. Okay? So you're saying, okay, well, Imam Ali alayhi salam, why was he so oppressed? What was so special about him? Whether he was the most or one of the most, whatever it is, what was so special? What did Imam Ali alayhi salam go through? And now we can go back to the beginning of his life and we can start thinking about it a little bit. We see that even during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see he was handling people in Battle of Badr, in the Battle of Uhud, Khaybar, Khandaq, Amr ibn Abdud, the champion of the Arab, he's slicing them down. Okay? But what does this lead to oftentimes? It leads to jealousy. People talking bad behind his back. Okay? Let's take it forward a little bit. The great event of Ghadir. You see what was happening right after the great event of Ghadir. What happened at the door of Hazrat Fatima Zahra? Could someone be oppressed more than that? That you're being chosen by the greatest of all humanity to be the successor, to be the leader of the Muslims. And just a few days later, people are saying, a few months later, people say, oh, you should have came to us first, Ali. This other person already came to us, already came to our door. Now, this is a great oppression. This is oppression on the Ummah, but it's also oppression on Imam Ali alayhi salam and his rights. He stayed quiet for how long? For 25 years. For 25 years, he said it was like having a thorn in my eye. And I saw that clip, Sheikh Mahdi Rastani, may Allah protect him. He mentioned this clip. I saw, he's saying, if we get something in our eye, sometimes my contact moves a little bit, and it's like, it drives you crazy, You're like, can't do anything else. Stop everything. Have to go and fix your contact, or you get whatever is on. Imam Ali is saying there was a thorn in my eye for 25 years. SubhanAllah. What oppression was there on Amir al-Mu'mineen? Then we see even when he became the Khalif, right? According to some, the fourth Khalif, the fourth Khalif of the Muslims at that time, we see that the first thing that happens is, and I remember I was sitting in this very seat in 2018 and we discussed the Battle of Jamal. The first thing that happens is people who were supporting him his whole life, his own cousin, Zubair, who Imam Ali said that he was Rajulan minna Ahlul Bayt. He was from us, Ahlul Bayt. His own cousin starts a war against him. The wife of the Prophet is leading a battle against him. Look at the oppression. Look at what he was going through. Okay? But what I want to focus on tonight in the next half hour or so, is the oppression that Amir al-Mu'mineen went through, the hardships that Amir al-Mu'mineen went through in the last 2 years of his life. Just the last 2 years of his life, from the year 38 to the year 40 when he passed away. And he passed away at approximately 60 years old. Okay, give or take. Some say 58, some say up to 63. Now you say, okay, well, why are we focusing on the end of his life? Okay, well, for one reason is because we'll better understand his shahada and his martyrdom. Another reason is there's important lessons in there for us to take away. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through some of the events in these last 2 years of his life, and then we're going to try to take some lessons from that, inshallah. So there was something that happened that kind of turned the tide. It kind of changed the way Islamic history was written. It happened in these last 2 years. The Battle of Jamal happens before these last 2 years, right? Imam Ali alayhi salam goes, and we've talked about this in depth when we talked about Zubair, we talked about Talha, and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. We talked about this a few years back, inshallah. Hopefully you remember. If not, inshallah, in the future we'll talk about it again. But we see that Imam Ali alayhi salam, he made quick work. He did his best to stop the war. He said we didn't want to have this war between Muslims. But once it was going to happen, he did what Imam Ali does. Okay, and he made quick work of the enemies. Okay, there were a lot of casualties. Alhamdulillah, Amir al-Mu'mineen is victorious. Now, what happens here is that we see now the focus turns to the larger enemy, which was Muawiyah, the open enemy, the one who wasn't just after power, but he was after changing the deen itself. Okay, so now the attention is there. The Battle of Sefin begins. And we talked a little bit about the Battle of Sefin. Battle of Sefin, a battle where you see 80,000 troops approximately on each side. Huge amounts of casualties. And Imam Ali alayhi salam was this close to having that apparent victory. When I say apparent victory, because we know that, brothers and sisters, if we're doing our wadifa, if we're doing our responsibility, we're victorious. If our responsibility is to go to Yawm al-Quds, is to stand up and speak out for the people of Palestine, we're victorious in the spiritual sense. Yes, we might not see Palestine free in our lifetime. Okay? But Imam Ali alayhi salam, he was close to having that exterior victory as well, where this enemy that had been under and hiding and now had become an open enemy, and Muawiyah all these years had been working against the Holy Prophet with his father. All these years, this tree of disbelief and misguidance had been working against the prophetic mission, and now it was coming to the front. Now it was coming out. See, Imam Ali was very close. How close? One person entered the tent of Muawiyah, and from the army of Imam Ali alayhi salam. This person could have finished the job. Well, what happens? Muawiyah bribes him. Muawiyah bribes him. Says, I'll give you X, Y, and Z thing. What's your price? This guy leaves. Next, we see that Malik Al-Ashtar, the very close companion of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He's right there. You can see the tents of Muawiyah. He's about to gain that victory for Amir al-Mu'mineen, for Islam. And what happens? This is that turning point in history that we need to discuss. This is where Muawiyah and his people, they put the Quran on spears. They put the Quran on spears, and the same Quran that Imam Ali alayhi salam was calling them to at the beginning of the battle, saying, look, we don't have to fight. Let's sit down, let's judge by the rule of Allah. Now these people are coming out with the Quran on spears. These same people that didn't respond. Why? Because they're about to lose. And we see here that where does the enemy come now? Where does the shayateen come now? Is it from the enemy's camp? No, it's from the camp of Imam Ali alayhi salam. It's the Khawarij. The people who we now know today as the Khawarij. At that time, who were they? They were people in the army of Imam Ali alayhi salam. They were a group of people from Kufa who were well known for what? They were well known for how good they recited the Quran. They were well known for their munajat, for their dua. They were well known for having marks of prostration on their forehead. They were well known for their piety. They were well known for their bravery in battle. These were the people that in the last 2 years of Imam Ali's life, they're the ones who changed the course of history. They're the ones who caused the problem. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So what happens now? They're telling Imam Ali, you have to stop this battle. We have to go and do arbitration. We have to sit down and talk. Muslims have to sit down and talk. Imam Ali is telling them, I'm the Quran. Don't be fooled by these people. But they didn't listen. They didn't have that basira. They didn't have that deep insight. This leads to the arbitration. Even when it comes to the arbitration, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, I'm selecting so-and-so. I'm selecting so-and-so. I'm selecting Malik. I'm selecting Ibn Abbas for my arbitrators. And they say, no, no, no. You have to select who we select. You see? The Battle of Sefin. How the Battle of Sefin ends, what happens? The arbitration goes nowhere. We know Muawiyah, with his treachery and his trickery, Amr ibn As, what happens is that they fool the Muslims, and we talked about Abu Musa Ashari before. They fool this individual, and basically this arbitration or this attempt to try to stop the war and talk it out, it reaches nowhere. Okay? So now what happens? These individuals, they say, okay, we made a mistake. We, the Khawarij, yes, we accept we made a mistake. But guess what? Imam Ali alayhi salam made a mistake for listening to us. Okay? And until he repents, we're not going to go back and help him. We're not going to go back and be on his side. Okay? And they camp somewhere on the outskirts, and they say, okay, we're not going back to Kufa, we're not going to be with Imam Ali. Here, Imam Ali says, it's okay. Let them not be with us. It's okay. Leave them alone. Okay? He says, we have a bigger enemy to face. We have to prepare ourselves, get ready for battle again with Muawiyah. Okay, you got to pay attention carefully here because the lessons are very important for us. He says, we have to go back and take care of Muawiyah. Right? He's focusing on the main enemy. He's not focusing on the smaller enemy. But what happens is the Khawarij, again, don't let Imam Ali alayhi salam go forth. Why? Because they start killing people, randomly killing people. If someone doesn't denounce Imam Ali, if someone doesn't denounce the third Khalif and Imam Ali, they'll go ahead and take care of them. They're killing innocent people. Imam Ali sends people to them to say, hey, look, what's going on? You guys need to chill out. Okay? There were like 12,000 people. You know, Imam Ali now at this point has an army of something like 67,000 ready for Sefin Part 2. Like 12,000 people over here that used to be part of Imam Ali's army. They continue to kill someone. Somebody was sent to them from Imam Ali's, they kill him. Imam Ali says, okay, and now there's no choice. We have to go and deal with this. But look, brothers and sisters, the way Imam Ali deals with those who are disagreeing with him. And we're going to get to this a little bit more in a few minutes. Imam Ali alayhi salam spends time talking to them, convincing them. Out of the 12,000 people, according to some historical reports, 8,000 of them said, you know what, you're right, we're wrong. We shouldn't be fighting against you, Imam Ali. So they either went back and joined Imam Ali or they left altogether. Okay. And that left something like 4,000 people for the Battle of Nahwan. Okay, this was the last of Imam Ali's battles. Now, in the Battle of Nahwan, we see that there was a man named Abdullah ibn Wahab. He was one of the leaders of the Khawarij. He said, okay, Imam Ali, why are you calling people to battle? Let's me and you handle this like men. Imam Ali said, okay, man, I've been waiting for somebody to say that. That's what he's been writing to Muawiyah all these years, to say, let's handle this like men. Why are we putting tens of thousands of people in battle? Ibn Wahab comes out, Imam Ali comes out, age 60 years old, one strike, it's over, okay? And the Battle of Nahwan finishes very quickly, right? There's those who say that it was like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, kun fayakun. The battle started, he said, be and it is. The battle started, it was over, okay? Imam Ali alayhi salam, Malik Al-Ashtar, they took care of business here, okay? But brothers and sisters, what I want to focus on now is the damage done because of this battle. The damage done by the Khawarij because of these battles. Because when the Battle of Nahwan ended, this is sometimes where it ends for us. And this is sometimes where there's some confusion, because we're like, okay, the Battle of Nahwan ended. Imam Ali had like a year and a half, 2 years left of his life, let's say. Maybe a year, between a year or 2 years left of his life. But what happened? Why didn't Imam Ali go back and take care of Sefin? Why was it that when Imam Hassan came, it seemed like everything was falling apart? It seemed like people weren't ready for battle. It seemed like people were leaving and going to Muawiyah's side. You see, there's a gap here in time that we often don't pay attention to. And in this gap is where we really feel the oppression of Imam Ali. When I was preparing for tonight's talk and I was reading this, it opened up a whole nother door of the oppression of Imam Ali Islam. A whole nother angle that we've never really thought about. Because what happens is Imam Ali Islam, this battle ends. And he says, توجهوا من فوركم هذا إلى عدوكم. He says, now that we're done with Nahwan, Nahwan happened in basically the outskirts of Baghdad. Okay, and their families, the army's families, Imam Ali's army, their family was in Kufa. Imam Ali's like, look, let's not go all the way back to Kufa and go and spend time with family and everything like that. Look, we just finished a battle. Let's just go and take care of Muawiyah right now. This is our chance. Okay, and what were the people in the army saying in his own army? They were saying, al-bardu shadidun. They were saying it's super cold. They were making excuses. They're like, let us spend some time. It's really cold. Let's go back. Let us handle our business, sharpen our swords a little bit, spend some time with our family, and then we'll go and take care of Muawiyah. No problem. Let's get our morale up a little bit. We just finished a battle. We're a little bit tired out. Okay? And here, brothers and sisters, if you pay attention to Nahj al-Balagha, you'll start to understand Nahj al-Balagha more. Because in Nahj al-Balagha, you'll see there's places where Imam Ali is praising the people of Kufa, praising his army. And you see there's other places where he's insulting them very harshly, where he's like, oh men oh people who are men who don't look like men or who aren't really men, right? And this is that time period, this year and a half that I'm talking about. This is where those later speeches are coming from. When he's trying to rally the troops to say, hey, look, Sefin part 2, we got unfinished business. You can't just leave Muawiyah out there. And where you're seeing time and time again, the people are not ready. The people are not listening. The people are not acting. Okay? And you see what's happening is that Imam Ali alayhi salam saw that where Muawiyah was, he was in Syria. If you look at the map, you see that Egypt is on the other side now. Okay, so between Imam Ali alayhi salam and Egypt, which was part of his land, Syria is kind of over there. It's got a good way to reach Egypt. And so Muawiyah was planning to attack on Egypt. Okay, he's weakening the Imam in different ways by helping the Khawarij, by buying people off, by randomly raiding people and killing people and making it seem like there's insecurity in Imam Ali alayhi salam's government. Okay, he's weakening people in different ways. And one way he was planning to weaken them was by going and attacking Egypt. Imam Ali alayhi salam, this is why he sends Malik, his closest of close companions, to go and be the governor of Egypt. And this is that famous letter that you see in Nahj al-Balagha, but sometimes they say the United Nations, use this letter or mention this letter one time. Not as if we should be proud of that. Like who's the United Nations? Like we care about what the United Nations have to say about Imam Ali's letter. Let them say whatever they want to say, right? But okay, it's a good point sometimes to, tell non-Muslims, for example. Okay, but this is that letter where he sends Malik with this letter, and he tells them, hey, look, this is Malik. You guys need to follow him. This is how you should rule, so on and so forth. Okay. Now we see that Malik is poisoned. Muawiyah's people, they're able to poison Malik. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, he's so upset. He's so hurt. There's so much pain he's feeling by the death and the assassination of his close companion, that it is said that you could see the marks of sadness on his face, ayyaman, for days. There were these marks of sadness on his face. He was so upset. Okay, and so now who is left to rule is none other than Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. Okay, Imam Ali's adopted son. Okay, so Asma was married to Imam Ali's brother, Jafar. When Jafar died, the first Khalif marries Asma. When the first Khalif died, Imam Ali married Asma. And at that point, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was 3 years old. Imam Ali raised him. He said, this is like my own son. Okay? And he had so much praise for Muhammad, the son of the first Khalif. And brothers and sisters, there's a point here that we should take notice. Look at how the Imams treated those who were divorced compared to how we treat those who are divorced. We should be ashamed that if there's people in our community, 1 year, 2 years goes by, they're divorced and they're still not remarried. But what's wrong with us? Something for all the women to think about, something for all the men to think about. I won't go into this more here. Okay? But what we see here now is that Muawiyah now is preparing to attack Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. He sends a letter to his father, the one who was like his father. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Muawiyah is coming to attack. I don't have the backing that I need here. Okay? He sends this letter. How would any father feel if you knew that your son was about to be under attack? You saw what just happened to your greatest of great warriors, Malik Al-Ashtar, and now you see your son, who you actually replaced him with Malik Al-Ashtar. Now he's the one in charge again. Now you say, okay, how would you feel? How did Amir al-Mu'mineen feel? Think of the oppression on Amir al-Mu'mineen. He goes in front of the people. He says, look, we have to go and defend Egypt. Right now, Egypt is the priority over Syria. He says, I am going to come out of Kufa to so-and-so place. I'm going to be ready for battle. Monday morning. Whoever's with me, come out there. They say that Amir al-Mu'mineen, now you're talking about Amir al-Mu'mineen, who was just leading an army of 80,000 people in Sefin, who just was victorious in Nahwan, who just was preparing an army of 67,000 to go to Sefin part 2 before he had to go to Nahwan. They say he went out to the hill and there was a handful of people. SubhanAllah. Brothers and sisters, this is the same story from 25 years ago. When Imam Ali alayhi salam says, if I have 40 people, I will go and get my rights back. When him and Fatima al-Zahra and Hassan and Hussein are going to the doors of people, they're saying, if we got 40 people, shave your head, come out here. And we'll go and get our rights back. Who comes out? Zubair, 2 or 3 people, they say, came out. 25 years later, plus 5 years of his khilafah, almost 28, 29 years later, the same story is repeating ourselves. And this is what we don't hear. This is when we understand Imam Hassan and appreciate Imam Hassan a little bit more. It's not that Imam Hassan came in and everything was perfect and then, no. This was the situation Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen was facing. Fatih Khaybar, the one who people were seeing him getting victory after victory. In Jamal, almost in Sefin, in Nahwan, but still the weakness that they had inside of them. Okay, but I don't want to talk about those other people tonight. What I want to talk about is the Khawarij. Because brothers and sisters, this is where we can gain our lessons. Remember what I talked about in my first week of talks downstairs, where we were talking about etiquette number 3. And if those of you who weren't there, inshallah, you can ask brothers and sisters on Al-Ajal to get the recordings. But we talked about the importance of balance in life. Importance of balance. Brothers and sisters, when Malik went back to the tents, remember he almost was there to finish off Muawiyah in the Battle of Sefin. Imam Ali says, look, if you don't come back, these Khawarij, these Mariqeen, they were called Mariqeen because the Holy Prophet basically said they are going to be those who are like a bow who shot out, and they're going to go through a prey, for example, like an animal, and come out the other side. He said that's how they're going to be with Islam. They're going to go through Islam, they're going to go too deep through Islam, and then come out the other side. That's why they were called Mariqeen, those who went too deep and came out. The Khawarij, those who went out. Okay? What Malik said when he saw these people, he said, "O people with marks of prostration on your forehead, you have chosen this dunya over your afterlife." SubhanAllah. You're like, what are you talking about? These guys were praying, they were fasting. They were called the Qur'an, the reciters. That's what they were known as because of how good they recited the Qur'an. What are you talking about? How are these guys choosing the world? They might have had some problems, but it wasn't that they were in love with the world, was it? For instance, this is where we have to check ourselves. Because love of this world and this dunya shows up in different ways. For some people, love of this dunya shows up in cars or in houses or in salary. For some people, love of this dunya shows up in the opposite gender. For some people, the love of this dunya and loving the dunya more than your afterlife shows up in rank, in position, in people knowing you as a pious person. You see, it manifests itself in different ways, but there's no difference. It's the same, like we talked about. The difference between somebody who says, yes, I am a pro, gay and lesbian, for example, Muslim, and somebody who says they're ISIS and they're Daesh, there's no difference to us. Right, what do we see in Munajat Shabaniyah? It says, يَأْمَنُ مَنْ رَكِبَهَا وَيَغْرَقُ مَنْ تَرَكَهَا. It says the one who is with the Ahlul Bayt is safe. The one who leaves them is drowned. And then look what it says. الْمُتَقَدِّمْ لَهُمْ مَارِقٌ. The one who goes ahead of them is who? Is Mariq. Mariqeen is Khawarij. The one who goes one step ahead of the Ahlul Bayt. Ahlul Bayt is saying, hey, look, be balanced. Yes, it's important to stay up in Layal al-Qadr. But if your family's there, your family needs help, that's priority. That's where your ibadah is. Yes, it's important to help out in the masjid. But if it's taken away from your studies, focus on your studies. The Ahlul Bayt are balanced. You're saying, no. Excuse me, sorry, I have to go and do this. You see, you're no different than the Khawarij. You are the Khawarij. It says so right here. You're Mariqeen. It's saying so right here. And then it says, وَالْمُتَأَخِرْ عَنْهُمْ زَاهِرٌ. And the one who are behind are going to perish. Okay? Meaning that those who are behind, those who are saying, yeah, Islam is good and all that stuff, but I don't believe in the law. Islam's about being a good person, alhamdulillah, and I'm a good person. That's what I hijab and, casting my eyes down and, yeah, come on. You see, now you're going to perish. It's no different. It's like a boat. It doesn't matter if you don't get on the boat because you're ahead of the boat or if you get behind the boat, either way, you're going to drown. Okay? So brothers and sisters, what I'm trying to get at tonight is these Khawarij. Number one, they lack balance. If we see ourselves, number one, in our Islam, we're not balanced in our Islam. For example, it's all about politics. The whole of Islam becomes politics to us. Or vice versa. The whole of Islam becomes us sitting on our prayer mat. Doesn't matter what's happening to our Muslim brothers and sisters in Palestine or in Grand Rapids or where, in Detroit or where, we don't care. Either way, understand that you're going the way of the Khawarij, potentially. Okay, you're not balanced. Okay? Number two, the problem that they had. They were prideful. Okay? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he quotes Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him. Imam Sadiq says, Jesus, peace be upon him, once said that I have cured the leper, bi'idhnillah, with Allah's permission. I cured the leper. I cured the blind, bi'idhnillah. I brought back the dead, bi'idhnillah. But I could never cure the fool. Why? He said, because the fool is one who thinks that goodness is only from himself. My masjid, my organization, we are the ones that are haq. Look, there might be wrong people doing wrong things there and there, here and there. It doesn't mean everybody's wrong. We all have a role to play, brothers and sisters. Okay? So somebody who's prideful, who thinks that they are the way. Okay? And this is also leads to the third thing I want to say, the points that the ulama say about the Khawarij. Number one, they weren't balanced. Number two, they were prideful. Number three, they had a superficial understanding of Islam. Right, let's finish the whole Quran in the month. Oh, we haven't understood one verse of the Quran. We haven't thought about one verse of the Quran. Right? A black and white perspective. For those who look black and white, it reminds me of, from Star Wars, only a Sith thinks in absolutes. Okay? Brothers and sisters, that's true for us too. Right? Look at how Imam Ali alayhi salam talks about the Khawarij. He says, after he finished them all off, basically in Nahwan, there were like 10 or so of them that ran away. Okay? What does he say? He says, لا تقتلوا الخوارج. Don't go after them, don't kill them. Why? بعدي, after me. فليس من طلب الحق فأخطأه كمن طلب الباطل فأدركه. He says, don't go after them, because the one who's going after truth, but he doesn't get it, he doesn't get to the truth, it's not like one who was going after falsehood and gets it. Basically saying the Khawarij are not like Muawiyah. Focus on Muawiyah. And I heard this in a speech once of the leader himself. I attended a large gathering where he was giving a speech. He said the same thing when it came to the war against ISIS. He said, don't get it twisted. Yes, we fight them honorably. We fight them to the end. But first we did everything we could not to fight. And we're not happy fighting them, because we know that behind the scenes, someone else is the real enemy. Okay? That's what Imam Ali says. So when we see people, whether they're within the Muslim Ummah, whether they're within the Shias, whoever they are, and they're saying that anybody who doesn't agree with us is the same. They're all the same. They're either with us or against us. Understand, this is dangerous. Okay? And the reason why I brought this up tonight, brothers and sisters, the reason why I spent time talking about this, even that night on Balance, and spent a whole majlis on this tonight, is because us as a community, we struggle with this. We really struggle. When somebody is a extremist, especially us in this room, as religious people who are coming to the majlis on Saturdays and Friday nights, when we see somebody who is lost on the other side, it's very easy for us to identify that this person is lost. This organization is lost. They got a rainbow flag. Whatever it is, their understanding of the deen is wrong. Okay? But it's between them and Allah. Inshallah, Allah forgives them. Inshallah, guides them, whatever it is. Okay? But their understanding of the deen is incorrect. We can understand that. But when we see somebody putting up the Quran on spears, putting up the flag of Imam al-Hussein, putting up the flag of the Islamic Revolution, it's very difficult for us to recognize them sometimes. So what do you mean? They're very religious. They're doing X, Y, and Z, good service for Islam. They've done X, Y, and Z, good service for Islam. But what we don't realize, brothers and sisters, is that if we don't stop the Khawarij from amongst us, if we don't stop ourselves first and foremost from becoming the Khawarij, Ibn Muljam will come out. Ibn Muljam will come out. Ibn Muljam was because of these Khawarij. When we talk about the oppression of the Khawarij on Imam Ali alayhi salam, we can't stop just at Nahwan. We can't stop at what happened after in Egypt. We can't stop at the tears that Imam Ali alayhi salam shed when he said that this was my son, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. May Allah have mercy on him. He was my sword. When he had these tears from Malik Al-Ashtar, we can't stop there. We take it all the way to his death. We see that it wasn't Muawiyah. It wasn't the extremists on that end. It was the extremists on this end. It was the extremists on this end. And this is where Imam Ali alayhi salam said this. And I promise you the Imam of the time is saying the same thing tonight. He's saying the same thing with himself. No, maybe not verbally. He says, وَلَوْ كَانَ لِي بِعَدَدِ أَهْلِ بَدْرٍ. SubhanAllah. Imam Ali is saying, if I only had بِعَدَد, with the number of Ahl Badr. How many were there in Ahl Badr? 313. Imam Ali is saying this when? In his last days, when he's ruling over an entire nation. But he's saying, I just needed 313. That's all I needed. 313 real followers. Brothers and sisters, that's what the Imam of the time is saying every day. That's what our hadith are telling us every day. He just needs 313 of us. And tonight and tomorrow night and in these nights, we have the opportunity to, inshallah, purify ourselves So we become of those 313. Brothers and sisters, these last moments of Amir al-Mu'mineen were very difficult. We see that different groups came to visit Imam Ali alayhi salam on his deathbed. First, we see even the enemies came. The enemies were brought to visit him. Ibn Muljam himself was brought in front of him. Imam Ali said, "This is someone who used to be in my army. Have I wronged you? Did I wrong you? Please tell me what I did to you." They say he saw Ibn Muljam was uncomfortable. He was scared. Imam Ali said, "Loosen the ropes. Give him better food. Make sure he has a more comfortable place to sleep tonight." Some say that even Ibn Muljam was leaving there in tears, some say. But what good are these tears, brothers and sisters? They don't change us. Next, we see some of the companions of Imam al-Mu'mineen. There was a man named Asbagh. He came, he was sitting outside the door of the house of Imam Ali. Imam Hassan came out, he saw there was a few companions sitting there. He said, "Imam Ali is not in a condition to meet anybody right now." Many of the companions left, they went home, they were crying. But Asbagh, he couldn't leave. He stayed at the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen for a long time, he continued to cry. Finally, Imam Hassan alayhi salam came out. He said, "You've been given permission to enter." You see, it's those tears, brothers and sisters, that the Ahlul Bayt need from us to give us permission to enter onto their ark of salvation. Asbagh entered the house. He said, "I saw Amir al-Mu'mineen leaning against something, cushion or wall." He said his head was bloodied. There was a white turban wrapped around his head. It was bloodied. He said, "I couldn't tell what was paler, the color of the turban or Amir al-Mu'mineen." I began to cry when I saw Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, "Ya Asbagh, don't cry. The end of this suffering, of this oppression that I've been through, of all these years, of the door of Fatima, of all the battles, of all the wounds, the end of all of this is Jannah. Don't cry for me, Asbagh." Asbagh said, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I'm not crying for you, I'm crying for ourselves. For we are going to be orphaned on this night." Finally, we see all that was left was the family of Amir al-Mu'mineen. See Imam al-Hassan shedding tears, Imam al-Hussein shedding tears. For 30 some years, they had been under the tutelage, the leadership, the guidance of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Ali says, "Don't cry, Ya Hassan." Maybe he said, "Don't cry, Ya Hussein." But there was someone who came and began to cry. Imam Ali didn't stop them from crying. In fact, he himself started to cry. This was his daughter, Zainabia Kubra. When she came, she couldn't hold back her tears, seeing her father. Imam Ali couldn't hold back his tears. Maybe it was because he knew that there was going to be a day where the tears of Zainab were going to lead to slaps in the face, where there would be nobody to console her, to dry her tears. لا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. بك يا الله يا الله يا الله، بك يا الله يا الله، بك يا الله، بمحمد بعلي بفاطمة بالحسن بالحسين
بذرية الحسين. Oh Allah, we ask you for the sake of Zainab al-Kubra to forgive all of us, to forgive our parents, to forgive anyone who's taught us a word in Islam. Oh Allah, we ask you for Fatima al-Zahra to curse the killers and the oppressors of Amir al-Mu'mineen Islam. Oh Allah, we ask you for the sake of the pure blood of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein to hasten the reappearance of the Imam and to make us his helpers when he can. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So before we conclude tonight's event, I just have a couple of announcements for everyone. The reason we're able So the reason we are able to hold events like these and throughout the year is due to the donations you guys do for Ahl Bayt Association. So for this month of Ramzan, Ahl Bayt Association has set a goal to raise $25,000. They're unable to achieve that goal. There are paper slips on each side, which has Zelle and PayPal's QR codes. If you can please scan that and donate. If you want to donate in any other way, you can reach out to Brother Asad Rizvi in that regards. Just a few other announcements. Al-Ajal is conducting a toy drive in partnership with Zaman International and Muslim Foster Care. Tomorrow is the last day to donate any toys. If they have to be brand new and unused. We have boxes on each side where you can donate. If you would like to donate any money, you can Venmo it to Al-Ajal Detroit, or you can reach out to Brother Sami Vasti. Lastly, as you all know, the day of Al-Quds is approaching. Inshallah, there will be a protest held in front of the Henry Ford Library on the April 29th at 6 p.m. For the protest. Al-Ajal is hosting a poster making event tonight after iftar at 9:30 p.m. In the main hall. I would highly encourage you all to join us and stand for the oppressed people of Palestine. Lastly, please recite a loud salawat for the increase in blessings for Sayyid Ali Jafri for coming out and giving a speech about Amir al-Mu'mineen. With that, we will conclude the English events. Please stay silent while joining the Urdu event downstairs.
It's on.